You added the B at the end of it. I just stayed cow the whole time.
I've always wanted a Roomba, you know?
No,
So
you
I don't
don't.
have to
They're terrible.
do the chores. You've had one? Is it no good?
Maybe because the house is just a little too big for it. But yeah, I mean, it's cool. It might be cool for like a small little apartment. Do you?
I wanted
are you
my
the type of
robot
person
slave.
who gives like sentient moving robots like life? Because like a Roomba, some people can like.
I wish I
attach a
had
life
that ability.
like okay, mentally give them, not
Mentally.
like gift
No,
them.
I'm
life.
the kind of person. I'm the kind of person who will give my car a name, and I'm sure the Roomba is just asking for it, right?
Right,
Little
'cause it
creature
moves
that
on its own.
helps me out.
It's
Oh,
kinda
yeah,
cute.
yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Where I work at the college I work, they have little carrier robots that bring food across campus. Yeah,
Holy
it's like these
moly.
little white robots that kind of just scroll around, like trolley around campus, dropping off food. It's so great.
Huh.
They're
Well,
very cute.
you know what? We have some fantastic and interesting characters that are trawling around the vast
Segway.
oceans. Segway! Oh, that's another robot-like thing. Man, we're just all roboting it today. Although I don't think, in particular, our chapter for the day has anything to do with any sort of robots, but we'll tie it in somehow. We're
figure it
gonna
out.
keep it going because we are the Grand Line Tourist, a chapter by chapter examining or re-examining, depending on if you're on my side of the screen or on my friend over there's side of the screen, of what? Of Aiichiro Oda's One Piece.
Yep.
I, doing the examining, am your tourist, Jacob. Do we usually say our last names? I don't know if I'm last name. I'm just gonna be Jacob today, okay? I'm just gonna be Jacob. You know what?
All right.
I've had a lot of people call me my last name. I'm gonna go a little incognito. But who are you, my friend?
They can
across
just
the
listen
internet?
to the other episodes and figure out what your last
No.
name is.
I'm gonna go ahead and bleep it out. I'm gonna do hours and hours and hours of audio editing just to protect
bleep
my
it out.
identity.
No, don't do that. I am Eric Sivu, your guys' tour guide for today.
Oh my goodness.
Forever, actually. I keep saying for today like it's gonna change. That may be in the future. I mean, we have 1,000 chapters.
You're a very forward-thinking podcast co-host. You're like already planning your eventual replacement
my
by making
eventual
every
retirement
episode
or
time
break.
limited.
I mean, there's a world out there where we get other tour guides to tour guide you while I go.
Oh,
Like-
it would be weird to drop an episode where it was neither of us. It was still the Grand Line Tourist. The format's the same, but it was just two other people like that were fulfilling our roles. That would be wild.
One, we would have to find a tourist. So that's the
Yeah.
problem so far. We've had a lot of tour guides jump in, which makes sense. The people who love One Piece love
Yeah.
One Piece. It's still very daunting. We'll have to figure out a way to trick people to come listen.
Exactly. What if we need to be able to have a sick day, right? You know, what if we just call in a
true.
sick day? You know, boom.
It's true. All right, Jacob.
Well,
where are we? What's going on today? I'm gonna hand you the clipboard once again for you to deliver
right.
the itinerary for today.
okie doke. We are on chapter 70, The Great Adventure of Usopp, the Man. Very good, very good. And let's see what happens here. We have Zoro is tied up, and Luffo is not a character in the
Wow,
story.
not yet.
Oh man, not yet. Oh, Luffy's brother Luffo. Write it down here. Tinfoil hat time. Right at the start. No, don't do that. I'm not putting my hat on for that. Zoro is tied up. Luffy and Yosako are they're somewhere else. They're not here. We're not quite sure. But that means that Usopp and Johnny get to go on a little bit of an adventure, you know? They spot the Merry Go anchored not at Arlong Park, but near Cocoa Village, you know? They were kind of expecting it to be in one spot, but it wasn't quite there. And this is where they learn this is where we learn that Usopp and Johnny are great and ready to bravely explore something as long as it's a peaceful town. As long as it's not Arlong Park, they're ready. Ready to go. But then they see some fishmen, and that immediately just diminishes their bravery, and they dive overboard, leaving Zolo to be taken because, you know, they tied him up because he was all injured, and he just wants to get up and fight. And
He was ready to just charge in.
Ready to charge in. Can't have that, you know. So he's tied up, and now about to be easily taken hostage because Zoro is not going to be able to do much to protect himself, all tied up as the fishmen come aboard the ship. Usopp and Johnny explore Gosa, the nearby town, and they find it ravaged and destroyed. Literally, houses upside down.
Yeah, on their roof heads.
On their roof heads, indeed. A fisherman comes in and scares Usopp and Johnny apart from each other. Usopp is then tripped up by locals Chabo, who is our revenge father boy from the last chapter. Shout out to Chabo. Yeah, and he's our Inigo Montoya. You killed my father. Prepare to die.
Yeah.
And we also meet. I'm gonna go with Nojiko. What would you go for?
I think Nojiko is pretty good.
Nojiko sounds great, but I know it's because I'm just going with my, these days, if it's a word I don't know, I just give it Spanish vowels pronunciation, which would be Nojiko. But it could be Nojiko as well. So maybe later on we'll figure out what it actually is. But there we go there.
Right.
Then Usopp is knocked out and taken by Nojiko and Chabo to the outskirts of Cocoa Village, to Nojiko's tangerine farm, which makes me think, shouldn't she really be on Orange Island? What is she doing out here? She's in the wrong place.
Right. Well, who knows how he's naming these things right now? So he's naming it as is.
Yeah. No. And that said, we learn that to hurt a fishman is punishable by death, and that is why Nojiko stepped in and prevented Usopp from firing off his slingshot in defense of them, because she just isn't a fan of people coming by her town, dying because of the fishmen. So she's out there protecting crazy, brave adventurers off on their manly, the great adventure of Usopp the Man, as we're seeing in this chapter. Chabo, he's not going to calm down. He's thirsty for revenge.
He wants that sweet, sweet nectar of revenge.
Exactly. And Nojiko's she's trying to play it cool, talk him out of it, and she does that classic, I'll put you in your place, make you cry, and send you home to your mama. That seems to work.
It does. It's a trope, but it works. I get it.
And Usopp, now chatting with Nojiko alone, learns that the witch that Chabo was talking about that stopped him from getting into Arlong Park was none other than Nami, and that she ultimately stopped and saved him by preventing him from going in there and hurting a fishman. And we also learned that Nami is we are in the house where Nami grew up, because Nojiko is the stepsister of Nami. And then Usopp is also at the same time learning that Nami is a member of Arlong's crew. So it's like a ton of realizations there in a very short span for Usopp.
Yeah, that poor boy's head's gonna explode.
His nose is gonna just grow longer, and then boom, head's gone. And finally, we end with a suspicious character, Zoro, being brought to Arlong Park by the fish pirates that have captured him. Whew, that was a lot longer than I thought it would be. I thought I was going to be
There's a lot of beats that just happened in this chapter.
Yeah. I had to flip 6 pages on this clipboard. I was expecting just you have an easy job today, but you didn't make it easy for me.
No, Thanks. I didn't. And Thanks, also, this is just what happens in these early chapters, right? just so much information being thrown at you, so much establishing. It's like exposition on exposition. There's a lot of visual exposition. There's a lot of verbal exposition here at the end, and a lot of just character lines and all that stuff. Jumping into it,
definitely. I'll give a shout out though. It read really well. I didn't think, although it was mostly exposition, it didn't feel so exposition-y. Because I think maybe just because of we had a simplified. I realize Oda's done this a couple times. Whenever we have, I think, these more heavy exposition stuff, he'll split up the characters, or he'll make some characters not be able to do as much. So in this case, Zoro's tied down. We're only focusing on Usopp and Johnny, so we're not seeing what Luffy and Yosako were up to. So we got two introductions of two new characters, learning a lot more about them. But we also had a lot of our characters, which we know, not even present. So that makes it much more attainable as understanding.
And listening to your talk actually brings up a really cool idea of they're each gonna learn about Nami being part of Arlong's pirates in the order of last in, right? Usopp first, and then Zoro's gonna learn, and Luffy's not even on the island yet, so Luffy's gonna be the one who learns last.
Or do we know where Luffy is? If I missed it,
they're en route to the island. Remember?
Yeah. Oh, so okay. Yeah. Our crew was already split up. They were following behind in general.
Yeah,
I gotcha.
because
I'd forgotten
back
about
to
that
go
fact.
to go get him. He traveled via Panda Shark.
Got it. Yeah. Okay. No, this makes sense how we're all split up. For some reason, So if you listen to my itinerary again, I said like Luffy and Yosako are somewhere else, like
Yeah,
as if I didn't know where they were.
I thought you were alluding that they weren't there. I was like, yeah, of course they're not there. We saw that last chapter.
No, yeah, this was. It's just I think it's like we've done a couple bounce backs, right? I think this is the first time we bounced to these two basically this ship with Zoro in a little while.
We haven't seen this group in a hot second because the last time we saw them, Mihawk wrecked Zoro.
Oh, so this is why it got me. Basically, the jump was enough to make me feel like for some reason we were all in the same boat together, and then they split up. But like, yeah, we're just kind of doing maybe even a little bit of a time jump too, right? Potentially, and so it you know, this happens when you're a tourist in a new area. You know, you got to get your bearings, and that's what you're here for. So thank you for helping me get my bearings. Now it all makes sense. It's all clear.
Yeah, and now I'm very curious about how the rest of these guys are going to learn about Nami's secret here. And I wonder, like, I'm writing down right now, pay attention to how Luffy finds out. Because I wonder if it's unique or if it has some sort of payoff. So I'm going to write that down for myself as, like, some sort of foreshadow predicting thing.
Nice.
My first thing I want to chat about is fishmen versus humans. This feels like this is the first big establishment of another race in the world of One Piece. Like, they're an obvious different race at this point, right? Johnny has that weird line about how fishmen are 10 times stronger than humans. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So that's like an obvious, they're not quite the same. They're obviously humanoids, but they're not the same race. So I'm wondering if there's some, like, if Oda's going to try and play off of some racism themes now. Right? Like, if there's going to be a lot of some racism themes in this one. I don't quite remember. But now that I have that, like, I'm opening my eyes a bit to that. I'm going to try and keep my eyes out to it. Just tossing that out to you to also keep your eyes out to it and see if we get any of those themes kind of pop up. Which probably will happen, right? Like, why go through all this trouble to establish a different race to not use it, not talk about that, right?
Oh, yeah. No, and it's interesting because in this example, the races are, like, you know, originally I did not know... his name's Arlong, right?
Yeah.
His last name isn't Park, though, right? It's just it's Arlong, and then he has Arlong Park.
Yeah, Arlong Park is the name of the facilities.
Okay. So Arlong, I didn't initially know was a fishman, but it kind of becomes obvious when you see the gills and stuff. But they're very humanoid, right?
Yeah.
You know, they're like, you know, fishmen, so they're part men, part fish, and Usopp was mistaken for one in this chapter, if I have it correct, right?
Yeah, because of his nose, which is a very funny Chabo kid logic.
No, and this totally plays into your theory there that you're going to maybe see some themes about racism. So, like, we already have you have these what we thought were two distinct identities, right? You're a fishman or you're a human, right?
Yeah.
And Usopp is already making that complicated.
Yeah.
And maybe it was just for the joke, or maybe it's for something on later. You know, it could be a payoff, as in maybe he can disguise himself as a fishman, or maybe it's going to be the payoff of, like, you know, a bridge between these two races. Hey, you know, you can't even tell who I am. So, what's the big deal? Like, why when you touch a fishman, are you going to be put to death? You know? And it's actually kind of a cool world where, like, I don't know how much fishmen there are in the world of One Piece generally.
Yeah.
But they kind of have an established, it seems dangerous for a human to come into their world, you know?
Yeah.
So the default character of One Piece until this point, the human, is actually kind of like the one being discriminated against in this area, which is an interesting twist.
Because they're getting wrecked, apparently. And also, we know for a fact that there is a fisherman who is a warlord, right? Like, we know that fact. So we know there's one at least as strong as Mihawk. Maybe, like, a little lower, maybe a little above. We don't know where he stands there, but he is a warlord of the Grand Line. So that these are things to kind of know. And now that they're 10 times stronger, like, yeah, I guess you have to be fought with, like, superhuman humans, I guess. You know, like, that's the only people who can really stand up to them at this point.
That 10 times stronger is interesting because we do have Chabo mention that these monsters destroyed the village, right?
I was gonna bring that up next.
And and well, the thing that I'm not totally sure when Chabo's saying these monsters destroyed the village, is he just referring to these fishmen who, I mean, if they're 10 times stronger?
I don't think so.
But yeah, like the picture seems to imply in the way he says it that they're not fishmen, right? Otherwise, he would have said, why would he call them out as monsters?
They have monsters with them, is what I think. So something big. Whenever they use the term monster, I think there's something big, and it's heavy enough that it left that. Remember, there's that crater in the middle of that town of Gosha.
Yes.
So I imagine it like something big that either slithers through or like moves through it, kind of like a snake or something. So that's what I kind of think it is. Yeah.
No, nice. Yeah, no, I like it. Now that you say snake, I can totally see it. Like,
right.
There's not many things that would leave that sort of trail besides snake, worm, something that wiggles.
Yeah, something that wiggles, something that has to put its belly on the floor, because steps don't look like that.
Alaskan bullworm.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, I'm good. A small little thing about fishermen. Did you see the note about the
swastika?
Yeah, isn't that kind of neat?
I did like it. So if you're looking between just what an establishing panel and the panel where we see some fishermen, it says, unlike the infamous swastika of Nazi Germany, the Buddhist manhi, and sorry, I haven't, me and Eric haven't, I don't think, looked up the pronunciations for these yet. So yeah. Manhi is depicted as a square. Right, yeah. Manji. And it just describes, they wanted readers to know that this symbol that was on the fishy bad boy below on his belly was not a swastika. It was this ancient symbol that is usually seen on the chest, palms, and feet of Buddha, representing good luck. Yeah, and it doesn't look exactly, for some reason, something about the way it's drawn, I don't think my mind wouldn't immediately, like, it definitely looks swastika-esque, but, like, I don't know, there's something about, I'm not sure. Did it look like a, you know what, the thing is, I saw that note before reading that.
It's not cranked over.
It's at the wrong, it's not tilted. It's very, very subtle, but, like, it kind of pulls you out of it a little bit. But I don't know if I didn't have that little note there.
It's just so interesting that this means, like, good luck in that, like, for that symbol, and then, like, the Nazi symbol, you just crank it just 90 degrees. Or not 90 degrees, you want to crank it, like 45 degrees, and it becomes something completely different. What an unfortunate comparison or, like, similarity for this poor symbol.
I know. It's used to be something. Yeah, I wonder if that's affected its use in the culture, or if we still see it on new Buddha statues that are made these days.
I agree. But yeah, that's a small little thing I want to chat about. I think I'm gonna say, if that's Manji, then I think we should pronounce this Nojiko.
Yeah, I'm kind of thinking that too. I think I've been taking my my Spanish vowels everywhere with me, and so I think let's go with. I think the J exists in Japanese culture. So I think
it's kind of cute too.
Or So we'll go with Manji and
Nojiko.
Oh man, Nojiko. Very good. So Nojiko. From now on, you shall be called Nojiko.
Yes, that's what we are agreeing to until either one of us do further research. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, we're busy people. We've been taking you on tour guides, and we're putting in the effort here. But we don't have infinite effort, sadly. But that said, what do you think of Nojiko and Chabo?
I mean, that's my question to you. I have my opinion because I know I exist in the future. You exist in the present. So
yeah, okay. I was disappointed that they revealed. It's kind of okay. It's very strange. So Nojiko, I was gonna say, I think this happened to me before when we met I think Kuni, right? Or who's the last female character we met on the island that Usopp was friends with?
Oh, the princess, right?
I said Kuni, but I think I'm a little off.
No, let me look through my notes. You keep talking.
Yeah. So what I was gonna say is I definitely have a thing where there's something about the way certain female characters are drawn that makes me think they're all related. And so when I saw Nojiko, I immediately thought she's Nami-esque. Something about the eyes, the hair,
I know.
General figure. I was just like, oh, she's Nami-esque. But then what I wanted to do is I wanted to put my tinfoil hat on and make a prediction. But sadly, we got the reveal in this chapter itself, but not in the way that maybe would have paid off my prediction, because Nami is a stepsister, which means they're not related, right?
They're not related, yeah.
Not related, but still, in my mind, I don't know. They got something in the eyes, and the face structure would have made me say, like, they could be real sisters, but not in this case. Not in this case. Kaya. Kunai, sorry.
You know what Oda does? He likes to give characters foreheads in general, but the female characters usually have, like, pretty big foreheads.
Maybe that's it. So much...
Which is such an interesting thing to kind of focus on for your drawing, right? Like, that's a very interesting body part to kind of elongate and pump.
Yeah.
And it does make all these female characters feel like they're related, because that's such a unique thing. Like, if I see, it is a very, it makes them related looking. But Nojiko has tattoos, what makes her seem super cool.
Well, yeah. Well, and we now know Nami has a hidden tattoo, right? That identifies her as part of Arlong's crew, right?
Yep. Yeah,
and it's also okay. Well, one thing about Nojiko and her, we actually don't understand her situation yet, right? How is this tangerine human farmer surviving on this island? Is it because people like the tangerines and they can't manage them themselves without her? Not sure. Or maybe it feels like there's like you mentioned tribal warlord, that idea that like, hey, if you fall in line, you give them a bunch of tangerines each month, you're allowed to exist, but you're still kind of segregated or discriminated against.
Right. I mean, the big story beat that kind of happened here is that Nojiko tells Cabo that essentially that same line that George Washington tells Hamilton in Hamilton, dying is easy, living is harder, which is exactly what she essentially tells this kid here. Which makes sense, but she alludes to a child that she knew who had it harder, and that child decided to live. Because in her mind,
that child clearly is Nami, right? Tinfoil hat prediction.
I don't know. Knowing what I know, I don't know what the clear answer is here. I mean,
oh goodness, okay,
probably, but it might not be.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, and it's a cool little. It is a trope, right? Like this idea of revenge being so blinding that it becomes an obsession, but like there is a reality to it. Like obviously revenge usually ends in, revenge always ends in death, either yours or the person you're trying to chase after. And that makes it a very interesting goal or motivation overall for a person or a character. So
apparently you've never had a prank played on you and then just got revenge by playing a prank on that person. It's always death with you, huh?
It's always death for me. No revenge is me. I will duel
to the death.
Yeah,
I demand trial by combat.
'Tis my revenge. Yeah, so that's kind of an interesting thought, but we'll have to definitely loop back around. That's such a huge foreshadow, this whole a child I once knew decided to live. Very interesting, right? So that's like, oh, that's a very loaded line in a sequence that we'll have to we'll loop back around to. I do think it's very sweet that Chabo eventually realizes, like, what am I supposed to do with all this pain? And then for Nojiko to be, is your mom still alive? And that's a good little, like, then you should just go be a son and be a good son sort of deal. Like, go back to your mom, which is great.
Yeah, I know, talking about all this has got me, I just keep thinking about story structure and how I was confused when we started this chapter about, like, where we were in time, you know? And it does remind me of Oda often will use flashbacks, right? So I can almost see another version of this tale being told where we stick with Luffy's crew, right? And we come to Arlong Park, and maybe they meet Zoro as like a prisoner, right? They notice that he's captured, and then we would get a flashback, and all this would have been in flashback. Right. So it's interesting, all the decisions that get made here, right? So I think probably the reason that didn't happen was because there's enough new characters that maybe introducing them all at once and then doing flashbacks would have been confusing if Luffy and crew arrived, met Arlong, had a flashback, figured out how Zoro gets captured. But no, it also feels like that could have worked too, though, because then my mind would have kind of been in the right place. I wouldn't have been so confused initially. I
think typically
it's interesting to see.
Based off the pattern we've seen, I think he uses flashbacks for like one or two reasons. The first one is being flashback to a character's way, way, way past, to establish like in a feeling or philosophy or something like that, right? Or an origin story. Or the other way he uses it is to do a flashback to kind of bail himself out of context that he didn't establish yet, right? And that's usually like a quicker flashback. For example, when Johnny and Yusako was like, Nami stole the merry-go and left, that was a flashback because there was already a scene happening that was very high intensity that he needed to establish the context of her leaving somehow. And so that feels more like an escape hatch, a safety net for him to establish story beats moving at the same time. So what you're describing, just because we're at the start of the arc, I don't imagine him doing it unless it was a character's deep backstory. We'll probably see it more when we're like mid-climax, mid-act 2 of this story, and it forces him he needs to reestablish something or bring up something that's providing context for the rest of the climax.
No, that's a good point. I think my personal like desires think that like this mystery, like I'm almost imagining it would be kind of cool to have Luffy show up to Arlong Park and just everything be crazy, right?
Yeah.
Zoro's captured. Usopp is with these other people, and that could be like the cliffhanger right at the exposition of like a chapter 1 establishing a new arc.
Yeah.
But you're right. It would take away from what Oda has established as the general use of flashbacks, which is long backstory from a long time ago and just recent events, just a quick kind of like almost a little tie together, right? Like we knew something was up with that wanted poster that Nami was looking at, and this is just a little payoff of like, okay, here you go. This is what it was. Now we're back in it.
Yeah, exactly. So it's cool. It's a good point, though. I like how we're talking about the story structure because right now, like, it's a good choice for him to keep going forward, right? No flashbacks. Keep going forward because I think maybe the goal is like to eventually make time go forward so Luffy shows up. So it makes sense. It makes sense to keep going. That's everything I wanted to talk about. Essentially, I mean, Nami's stepsister, that's just been said. We don't know how that's going to pay off. And then, like you mentioned, the tangerine growing. The tangerine's a very unique choice, but also explains why she knew about nutrition. Nami knew. Yeah.
Hey, I like that. No, that's a nice detail.
Yeah.
And specifically about vitamin C, right? We're talking about, dang, look at that.
Yeah.
Good Lord. Writing these stories must be fun because I feel like that is a detail that came out in the process. I don't feel like
that he came in knowing that.
It all depends. Unless Oda just decided I'm going to write like a 500-page novel setting up the backstories for everything, and then I'll start making the manga, which I bet it was more hand-in-hand at the same time. A little bit of both.
I'm going to write down deeper meaning behind tangerine because that's a very unique choice. Why wasn't it just oranges, right? Like tangerines it's a choice, obviously.
Yeah, well, it makes me want to, you know what? I'm just going to go just one moment to do a little bit of live research. I'm just going to go to the alternate translation for this chapter and make sure it's also tangerine. Vamp for me.
All right, I sell Vamp. While Jacob's doing that, I'm just going to move on to the next section, which is OP Got Jokes. I think in your itinerary, there was a joke that you kind of missed was that they were going to start moving towards Cocoa Village, and once they got close to the dock, they realized fishermen were there. My favorite part is that the fishermen noticed them, and they just keep moving forward. Like Usopp was like, "Just keep moving. If we don't do anything, maybe won't notice us." Which is funny when the fishermen then jump into the water to chase after them because obviously they notice you idiots. But that's not my favorite joke. My favorite joke was when Usopp jumps off and he's in the water and him and Johnny are crying about the fact that Zoro's about to get captured, and he says, "We'll tell Luffy you fought bravely," which is great.
Oh my goodness, you're clearing up so much stuff for me. So like, I did find that funny as well, especially since like the fishermen are like, "What the heck?" Like they just pass us by and whatnot. Yeah. But there was one panel that had given me trouble, and it was the one where let's see, it's where we see the fishermen in the water swimming towards them, and the words we see are, "Hey, I don't recall seeing that ship before."
Yep.
And for some reason, I thought that was Usopp saying that, and I thought the splishing and the splashing in the water was the ship. And I'm like, that's the weirdest drawing of a ship I've ever seen. Is it like a rowboat? But it's the fishermen. They're actually just swimming. So this is
that's what
this was my
jump.
This is my human-centric mind view, right? I don't imagine these pirate humans on a dock jumping in to swim after a boat that's kind of sailing away. But fishermen, that's just second nature, right? I'll just jump in the water and do that.
Right, because they could probably swim a lot faster than what this boat was going.
Exactly. So you definitely cleared that up. I should have asked earlier, like, what's in that panel, but I was a little embarrassed, and you have taken that embarrassment away by explaining it perfectly and also explaining a joke. To come back in with my knowledge here, check out this translation. I'm Nojiko. I grow oranges here. So we actually have a bit of a translation battle going on between whether it should be tangerines or whether it should be oranges.
I'm erasing this now. Now we Americans can't even translate this correctly. I don't know anymore.
No. Well, the thing is, in this case, I don't know who's right. I think one of the things that could help that would clarify for us who's doing something weird, if the word that's used here is the same as the word that was used there was Orangetown, right? Oh, but that's confusing because Orangetown could just be like the color orange.
And but that's assuming you and I understand like the kanji, I think is the term for the symbols. Like we don't understand that, and I know for a fact that some of those symbols definitely flip flop. Meaning different things depending on what other extra lines you kind of add to it. So we.
But I Oh, you're right. Because I was thinking if you were to look at the kanji for Orangetown and look at the kanji for the introduction of, oh man, I just haven't said it
We
enough.
wouldn't.
Nojiko,
I don't.
or,
Let's not pretend like we'd be able to decipher.
I'm gonna
that.
pretend. If I have time, I might look at both those. And if they're the same looking symbols, I'll put a little blame on the Viz Media translation and say, hey, same symbols, and you used a different word. And I'm gonna pretend context doesn't matter because whatever. And that's bad translation. Never mind. Maybe I'm not gonna do that. But either way, very interesting, right? Very interesting to see tangerine and oranges being thrown about. But I like the decision. I like tangerines. I feel like if someone offers me a tangerine, I just would always say yes. It's a little more exotic than an orange.
What do you got as a joke? You have any jokes that you kind of tickled you?
I think I really liked. Oh, let me see what I got in here. I did write a nice one down. Oh, what are we gonna do when we bail? We'll say we weren't able to bring Nami back. We'll just that's how we'll cover ourselves, right? This is how loyal Usopp and yeah. You know what? It's kind of funny. Johnny and Yosaku. I've never gotten a good read on whether, like, because I feel like they're the characters that are along with our crew that have the least backstory.
Yeah.
Are they brave? Are they good at anything? Can they fight? Seeing Johnny and Usopp, it makes me just think of Johnny as like a coward, or maybe Johnny just goes with Usopp as a coward, but like, I like their cowardice. We'll say we weren't able to bring Nami back. That's it.
Yeah, that's what we have to do. That's our one excuse. That's the thing.
Oh, this also makes a little more sense now that I know they're talking about going back to Luffy, who is further away.
Yes.
And we'll say we weren't able to bring Nami back. I was kind of imagining, from the beginning of my bad itinerary, they're just going to go back to wherever Luffy and Yosaku are right now. That's somewhere else that I referenced, and just say, oh, we couldn't get her. Maybe come help us. But I get it now. They're thinking of returning all the way to like the Baratier potentially.
Right.
And saying, we couldn't get them. But yeah, I don't think there was some maybe a little few ha-has filtered throughout, but I think that's about my main ones there.
All right. Well, shall we throw panels into each other's faces?
Yes, we are going to
As you already did, because you did put a spoiler block on your Discord post.
Oh, no! You know what? I clicked yours. And I didn't look at it, though.
Wow.
But, now that... I clicked it and immediately looked away, so I didn't actually get a glimpse at what yours was.
Well,
but yeah, I didn't.
Let's do our sound effects
Discord.
into this section, and then we'll explain this section anyways, even though you already prematurely punched me with your panel. But this is what it is. We are in the panel battle. I do a lot of tom hits when I do my noise to this segment.
Oh, a nice, yeah.
Yeah. So obviously, this is the panel battle section of our podcast where we just each choose a panel that spoke to us, that had cool details, or just kind of was unique to us and made us feel things that we bring to the table, and then we put them into a ring and make them fight each other. Again, this isn't just a 1v1 battle. It can be a 2v3, 7v8, or a battle royale per se, as the youths call it today. A fortnight of a battle. So
we gotta simulate that somehow. We gotta have a shrinking panels,
exactly.
Space
Very
to submit
slowly,
them.
they're going to be forced to confront each other. For you to participate, all you have to do is send us an email at grandlinetourist@gmail.com. We own that email address, so send it in, and we'll look at your panel. We'll even just listen to you rant and talk about your love of One Piece or lack of One Piece, or why all the female characters in One Piece have big foreheads. We don't know, man. We want your thoughts on it. We want you to deconstruct how we should be interpreting Nojiko's name. So write in, grandlinetourist@gmail.com. Again, Jacob was a punk and he already threw a punch, so I'm going to have to digest his panel first.
Take it. You've been sitting with a gigantic bruise on your I don't know. Do you have I was gonna say, is your forehead, would it be drawn big in this universe? I don't think too big. Well, your hair kind of sits nice. I think you got a more forehead showing than maybe the average. We both have some decent forehead show. So I see a bruise on your forehead from my panel punch.
I think we have reasonable foreheads. I don't know if they'd be Oda foreheads whatsoever. All right, so this is a smaller establishing panel. It's really great. We see the silhouette of the humans and the fishermen. We see the fishermen on the docks confused, and then we see our heroes. We see Usopp, Johnny, and Zoro. We can clearly see Zoro is tied up. We can see Johnny is probably steering. And we hear it from a distance, pretty far away. And then we see the merry-go all the way in the distance. We hear Usopp saying, full speed ahead. And then I think this is Johnny saying, aye, aye. And then I love the detail of the three fishermen on the docks of the Coco Island village docks with the question mark, like, what's happening? And then a swoosh. It's a fun little Wes Anderson comedic panel joke.
Oh yeah, and the thing I'll call out is I think what made this panel for me is the way the onomatopoeia of swoosh is done. Yeah. It's like it kind of like represents to me what their thoughts were like. We're gonna go do this. That's the swoo, and then like there's this long line, and then the ... and the shh. Like okay, quiet, get away. Gotta get out of here. Like there's fishermen. We're done. Our bravery that started out with that nice swoo is by the end of the panel done. So I like that, and it kind of shows the motion of the ship as well past the fishmen in that form. So
it's we're going this way. Oh no, pretend like they don't see us.
So yeah, that's why I picked that panel. And I just had like a what do you call it? A subliminal little slap from you at the very beginning when for some reason, you had yours nice and spoilered. I just clicked it. I just like click, and then I got a subliminal hit, and I moused up really fast, so I never really saw what it was. But I've subliminally already seen this slap from you, and this is what we got. We got abandoned ship. Wait, you guys, says Zoro in the middle with a gigantic open mouth, teeth like daggers, tongue huge, all tied up, and then Johnny jumping off the ship as well, saying aye aye, following orders from Usopp, the coward in this case.
Yep.
Jumping off the ship. Oh, wait, didn't we have that? Was Usopp? Oh, Usopp is a coward. He still is a coward. He's sticking to character.
He's a realist,
good. Very
man.
good job,
He
Usopp.
understands his limitations.
He's a realist. Exactly. And right now, to be honest, it kind of works out for them. They kind of get like a man on the inside to some extent, because it works out with him being tortured, kind of seeming like
they both kind of get their wants, right? Like Usopp and Johnny get to run away from the situation, which they already wanted, and Zoro low-key gets what he wanted, which is just to go in swinging, and now he's literally gonna get to go in. He's gonna get to go in. Whether or not he gets to swing, who knows?
I was thinking he might not have to swing, because like he's taken as he was assumed to be a hostage of these two, and so now he's going to be like a new hostage. I wasn't sure how the situation's going to play out with the fishmen.
Yeah.
But that said, this panel's fun because you can they're like over the railings now. Feet are in the air. Like
I love the perspective. I think that's why I took it. It's like a fun little fish islands that you probably would never be able to pull out, but you get a very clear picture of all three characters, their reaction to the situation, and the harsh reality that Zoro will always be left behind.
Yes, always left behind. And I just like the fact literally two of our characters are in the air float, like, mid-jump.
Yeah, mid-jump.
Like, if you were to pause this scene, there was only air beneath the belly of Usopp and Johnny as they go over the
synchronized of diving.
Yes. Indeed. Synchronized diving.
All right. Whew. Jacob, what noise are we doing to end our... I think we should do your great onomatopoeia, which is the swoosh.
The swoosh.
Yeah.
Nothing but net. Swoosh.
So I'm going to do the swoo, and you finish the noise for us.
Very good.
You ready?
Ready.
Here we go. Swoo.